edition of the College Strength Podcast. I am Alex.
I'm Andrew.
And, well, it's been another week. Another great week of training.
That's right. Always grinding, right?
Always grinding, always hustling.
So what are we talking about this week, Alex?
Today we're going to talk about a pretty essential topic, which is motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of how that affects everyone in different ways. But first, I kind of wanted to let's just recap like how our training's been going this week. So, what's been going on for you?
What's been going on for me? Well, I just finished up a couple of my classes, so it's been a pretty tough week when it comes to academics.
Yeah.
So I fit in my training pretty well. I woke up earlier this week than normal and just got in there, But as far as training goes, I've been going on the last cycle of my bulk. I'm coming up with I think this may be the last week of my bulk, and it's been at least 2-3 months of bulking now, and as I come up to the end, I'm just kind of like I'm straying away from the powerlifting now, and I'm going more into just like doing the small exercises that I want to do and picking days that I want to do in order to make sure that my body's ready for the cut and it's going to look good after I cut.
That's true.
So I've taken away from the strong and making myself stronger, and I've looked towards the bodybuilding aspects,
right.
And I feel I've been targeting arms more, and I've been targeting chest more, because those are the two things that I really wanted to work on when I started this bulk. And even though that the powerlifting part like propelled me to all the results that I had,
right.
It's nice to end with a more aesthetically pleasing note.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
How's your training been going this week?
It's been pretty good. It's been pretty fun. Hit a couple PRs, I guess. I'm progressing good.
How was your squatting yesterday?
Squatting was good. I squatted. If you read my blog, you'll also know this, but I squatted 425 for a single, but it was like really, probably like an RPE 8, which I don't know if you know what RPE means.
Explain
it's a rate of perceived exertion.
Really?
So it's basically a training modality that was created by Mike Teixeira. He's an American powerlifting coach. Really accomplished guy. He actually competes in the 120 class in the USAPL. And I think he has like a couple world records. Basically like ridiculously strong. And so he obviously knows what he's talking about.
He's an authority.
Yeah, essentially he created the system. It was adapted from Prilipin's table, I think. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was adapted from. But essentially, the system serves as like a 1 to 10 ranking. So you rate things on like how easy they were. So an RPE 10 would be like a complete 1 rep max. So you can't physically do any more weight than that, right? But an RPE 9 might be, you can do, it's kind of been adapted now more, but you can either do 1 more rep or maybe a little bit more weight, but probably not more than like 5 or 10 kilos, right? And then as you go down, it kind of becomes less specific, and RPE 8 is probably, for me, I feel like it's 2 more reps. Nice. So I think yesterday, like I could have done 425 for a pretty easy triple. Nice. Maybe a little bit of a grind on the third rep, but I definitely could have done, probably squatted 440 or 450.
So would you say, like, as you go through those reps, let's say you did do those 3 reps, and on the third one, would it be an RP 10? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can also rate, I think that's a good way of looking at it too, right? So if you're aiming to train to an RP 10, so let's say you're doing like a 5 rep max or something, you would want the first rep to be like an RP 6 or 7, and then as you go up, the reps are feeling harder, and by the time you get to the 5th rep, it's an RPE 10 and you've grinded it. But I think for the most part in my training, I try to not include RPE 10, because I think that if you're I'm a big proponent of training submaximally, but I think at the same time it's really important to
why don't you explain that a little bit, submaximally?
So essentially, obviously maximal training would be every day you're going in the gym and you're maxing out, but like not even just a max for that day, like an absolute max. So you're pushing yourself to the point where you're training to failure, essentially.
Right.
You can't lift any more weight, you can't do any more reps, that type of thing. So I think submaximal training is kind of categorized as being between around 75 to 85 or 90% of your 1 rep max, and using that weight for a set amount of reps and set scheme that would allow you to not reach failure. So I think that that's really important, but at the same time, it's also been a huge pitfall for me. I know at my last meet, I really struggled with weights that I was definitely capable of on any given day, right? So I should be pretty comfortably able to walk in the gym and squat 430, or at the time I should have been able to, because my training, the reps and sets that I'd accomplished outlined to me that I was capable of that. But at my meet, I failed 430 because I just didn't have the capability to grind.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a really good day for me because I've dieted down a lot. I was obviously pretty fatigued because I'd done a meet 6 weeks previously. So it was like, you know, it was back to back kind of.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that played into you failing there. Now, but I know something interesting you brought up the other day was that you think grinding is a skill that can be learned.
Oh, no, 100%. I think that you watch any top level lifter, I think a really good example is Britain's own Hubbard. You watch him, like on his first rep at Worlds a couple weeks ago from this being released, you'll see if you watch that video back, you'll see that his rep was really slow, and the commentators were like, well, I don't know if he's gonna be able to add that much more weight, but he came out on his second, he added like 10 kilos, grinded it again, and his third he did the same thing, right? So maybe he's capable of lifting that third weight, right? Maybe he's lifted that in the gym before, but on that day he was obviously like pretty fatigued, pretty tired, very stressed out because of the World Championships, but because he's one of those lifters that he goes in and he takes like a lot of heavy singles, he has that practice of grinding reps.
Right.
And I think that that's something that's fallen out of my practice because I think perhaps at my first meet I was more capable to grind out weight because I'd always trained to a more maximal level. And I think now I'm really trying to, you know, include heavy doubles, singles, and triples to really boost my ability to grind. And I think, you know, for me, motivation has never really been an issue, but I think it can be kind of difficult to just grind through a rep if you're not motivated to do so. And I think that's why that kind of brings us back to our topic, and that what we want to talk about today was motivation.
Right.
You know, so I guess for me, I've been talking for ages, so I'll carry on talking, I guess. But what my main motivation is has always been to be the best that I can be at anything I do, right? And this, you know, this obviously carries over to lifting as well. So ever since I began powerlifting, my first goal was to hit 1,000-pound total. I, you know, accomplished that pretty quickly, pretty easily, and now, so then my next goal was 1,100, I accomplished that. Next goal was 1,200, accomplished that. Next goal was 1,300. I hadn't quite got there yet, but I think now if I maxed out in the gym tomorrow, I would have 1,300 pretty easily.
Right, it's just not recorded yet.
It's just not recorded in a
Right.
meet because a meet is not the same as the gym, as anyone who's ever competed will know. But so my goal right now is to total 1,400, which I should pretty easily be able to do at Nationals in October. Also because I'm moving up a weight class. But I think my main motivation is that I can see past that 1,400 total, right? So there's a short-term goal, but my long-term goal and the thing that's driving me to continue to progress and work so hard is that I want to be a world champion, right?
Right.
So, you know, people may listen to this and think, wow, what an idiot, like he is clearly really far away from where he needs to be. You know, why even aspire to that? But I think it's really important to have a goal that is borderline unachievable. So that's something that once I get there, there's nowhere else I can go from there. Like once you've become a world champion, you can't, even if you win again, fine, that's probably a little bit better, but you can't really do any better than that. So having that goal means that I will always have something to work towards. And then in between me and that is my short-term goals. So, you know, my short-term goal, 1,400. Then probably after that it'll be to win nationals, because that's a step that I need to make to get to worlds. But maybe totaling 1,500 or 1,600 comes somewhere in between that.
So that's kind of I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's kind of an interesting system you got going on there. You like to have a long-term goal in mind, but you break down into short-term goals in order to make it seem more achievable.
Yeah.
So does that translate over to, since we're college strength, does that translate over to your college life at all?
Oh, for sure. I think that, you know, it's really easy to get caught up with the fact that you want to graduate with the 4.0, right? That might be everyone's goal. I don't think it's a good goal, to be perfectly honest. Like, in my opinion, why would you go in there with the mindset that all you care about is getting 4.0? Because I think at the end of the day, your grade point average, as long as it's more than a 3.3, it doesn't really matter, right? I think what really does matter when you're in college is what the other things you're doing, right? So, I mean, okay, that was a little bit off tangent, but going back to what you said is that if your goal is to, let's say, graduate with honors, right?
Right.
So you need to have at our school above like a 3.5, I think it is, in order to graduate. Something like that, to graduate with honors. So if that's your goal in the long term, then in your individual semesters, you really need to be, going above and beyond 3.5. So, you can break it down. And as opposed to just saying, at the end, I want to have a 3.5, you need to be saying to yourself every semester, let's say your first semester, because that should be your easiest, I want to have a 4.0 this semester. And then you can break it down, let's say you have 4 exams in each of your classes, so you say, I need to get an A in each of these exams. And then you could break it down on even further and say that I need to study, in order to do that, I have to study a certain amount of time per week, and that rather than just being a task that you have to accomplish as a goal. So you have to study, let's say, 6 hours a week for your math class you're taking in your first semester.
That's a lot.
Huh?
Yeah. I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit. I have last semester I took Calculus 3.
Oh yeah.
So the way I broke it down, I actually, the system that you were explaining parallels my actual system.
That's interesting.
Almost identically.
Right.
What I would do, because my goal was to get an A in Calculus 3. Calculus 3 is a very difficult math class for a lot of freshmen, sophomores,
Dude, I barely got through Calc 1, so you're fine.
So anyway, I approached Calculus 3 with the mindset where I wasn't going to focus on my overall grade. I was going to focus on every assignment that was given to me.
See, that's really good.
So I started with the first homework. I got an A, and then I started the second homework, then the quiz, then the test, and I broke it down into each short segments. But even shorter than that, I broke up every day into I need to allocate time.
Sure.
And that's something I really wanted to talk about today was my system of allocation of time when it comes to lifting, when it comes to school, when it comes to just general life in college. Well, I wake up and I like to think that, hey, I'm going to give an hour and a half to work out. I'm going to give 2 hours to study or so every day.
Right.
And then I'm
even in the summer, because most people right now, they're slacking off. But Andrew is a huge overachiever, right? You look at this guy and he's taking classes at other universities, right?
Yes.
Because they're not offered at this school. And then he's also taking online courses to develop his coding skills.
Yeah.
So that he can succeed in all the facets of his life, right?
Exactly. Like, I try to... That's also an interesting point. I like to think one of my main motivations is I like to feel elite. Now, one of the main reasons I started waking up at 6 a.m. and went through that phase where I would wake up very early is because when I get there was only you and like 2 other people. So when I felt myself waking up at 6 a.m. and realizing that other people are just out there and sleeping or partying or doing whatever, it made me feel good about myself, increased my self-confidence and my motivation overall. Because not only could I work out at the gym, I could come back at 7:30 and be ready to study.
That's true. I think the other thing about that, which is almost kind of a byproduct, is you go in, when you wake up at 6 a.m., you wake up with a purpose, right?
Right.
So people might wake up at 9 and they don't have class till 11 and they don't work out in the mornings, or they don't work out at all, but you don't have a purpose when you wake up. So you just spend like 2 hours fucking around, maybe eating a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you wake up at 6 a.m. and you're going to the gym, you have a purpose. So you're going there, you're going to put everything you have into that workout, because for that hour and a half, the way you break it down is pretty good, because for that certain amount of time, that's all you're doing. That's all that's in your head. And I think for me, it kind of, a huge distraction from that is like not having your work done the night before. So I think almost that is kind of equally as important as making sure that you are breaking down the tasks that you're required to do, and making sure that you're providing yourself the opportunity to get the most out of your workouts by having a clear head. I mean, I know especially... with your strength training, like, you've been making a huge amount of progress, and I don't think it is possible if you're not in the right mindset, right? Because if you're trying to deadlift something that's like, your deadlift has increased enormously in the past 6 months, and I think what was your most recent PR, like 4 something?
Yeah, it was 4 plates and a 5.
All right, so like 420, I don't know, 415.
Yeah.
415. But I remember, like, when you were watching that, like, when you were about to get ready to deadlift it, you were so focused, like, so in the zone. And I think, for me personally, like, I've had a lot of experiences where I've gone in the gym and I had to do, like, a really big day, like 10 sets of 3 with, like, 365 or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, your head's not there because you're thinking about, like, other classes, like a girl that you're trying to date or something. But I think it's really important that when you go in the gym, you're just, in order to channel your motivation properly, you're not on your phone, especially like if it's a big session, right? So you're not on your phone, you've done your homework, you have some time that you're essentially just completely devoting to this.
Right, you can't just slip it in here and there, because
Yeah,
I think I think a lot of people, and especially a lot of students, think of their health and their fitness as secondary.
Right.
Well, my mindset towards everything I do is, at the time, that's my primary. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
So
Alright,
I go
like
into
it,
the
I like
gym,
it.
and that's when I'm at the gym.
Yeah.
I feel like this is my whole life.
That's all you're doing.
That's
then,
all I'm
no?
doing.
Right,
That,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I want. This is what I got to do for the rest of my life is
Sure.
lift. So I got to get good at it. And then as soon as I'm out the gym, it snaps off, and I'm just in the mode of a programmer now.
Yeah,
And
I
I
feel
have
that.
to learn coding because this is going to be supporting my career. And then after that, I am on to my electronic music creation. I'm a producer. So all this time it's allocating. It's not as if anything's above another.
Right.
It's just at the time. That's all you need to be focused
Yeah,
on. Because
that's
if you don't have the
interesting.
focus and you think, okay, I'll work out and then I can study. So because that's what I really want to do is study.
True.
Then your head's not in it, and you're not going to get the results you need. You may as well not even go.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think that motivation is one thing, but determination is completely another, right? So you can have all the goals in the world, you can really want to get there, but you have to be determined to succeed, like you said, and then you also have to, you can be the world's most motivated person, but if you don't know what to do to use that motivation to get where you want to go, you're never going to reach that point. And I think, you made a really interesting point just then when you said that in each individual moment you don't have any priorities. All you're thinking about is that one individual thing, and I think it's kind of like you're wearing a different hat, right? So you're a different version of yourself when you're in each place. And I think I totally coincide with that, because I think, even when I'm at home, I know a lot of people in the gym, but I'll walk in the gym and before I start working out, I might talk to people, I might have some conversations, but when I know I have to go and put my work in, I'm putting my work in. I'm not talking to other people, I'm not watching YouTube videos in between my sets. I mean, I know I was doing that a little bit today, but it wasn't like a big workout for me, but normally, when I'm having a big workout, I'm just listening to my music, whether it's to calm me down in between sets or whether it's to get me hyped up for my next set, and I'm really not talking to other people. And some people kind of question this, the way that I train, because they think, you're just being antisocial, you're just kind of being a dick, and you're being a little bit too intense. But at the same time, I think that the intensity is just a reflection of my motivation. And I think I'm so motivated to achieve everything I want to achieve, and I know how difficult it is going to be, that I know what I have to do in each individual in each individual training session,
Right.
and I'm doing the very best that I can to achieve that. And if that means that I'm being a little bit antisocial, then that's fine with me. But if it's helping me to progress, then that's really what I need to be doing.
So I think something that may be interesting to talk about is, a lot of viewers or a lot of listeners out there may ask the question, how does powerlifting what are the benefits of lifting in college? Motivational wise, like how does that help you? Obviously it makes you look good, right? But not a lot of people may care about that.
That's true.
So how, personally, I know you wanted to get strong.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to get fit, but what else did it do for you?
I mean, honestly, man, like, powerlifting saved my life. It completely, I think, along with a lot of really interesting experiences I had my first year of college, I think that powerlifting was the one thing that's helped me get from being a really average person to being the person who I am now. And I don't consider myself average by any means. I know some people take offense to that, but I don't see myself as better than other people, but I know I'm elite because, I'm doing things that a lot of other people wouldn't give a shit about doing.
Right.
And I'm working harder than almost everyone I know. Maybe with the exception of you, because you're a very, very hard worker. But I always like to be the hardest worker in the room, right?
Exactly.
And compare that to the person who I was in my freshman year, when I really didn't give a shit about much. I think it's interesting that powerlifting has transformed me completely. I think when I first started doing it, it's just because I was interested in it. I thought that it'd be kind of a good way to help me reach my goals, and it would give me, I think I'm very goal motivated, and having the goal of a competition was something that would help me to maybe slim down, lose weight, and also get stronger at the same time.
Right.
But I think when I started it, I really found that it was an amazing emotional release for me, because I'm a very emotional person, and I've had I guess like the past couple of years were very difficult for me, and I was struggling with really finding myself. And I think that powerlifting is one of the main things that can be credited with helping me find myself, because I think when you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit in any form, you're really going to discover what's inside of you as a person. You're drawing out that anger, you're drawing out that raw emotion, and you're using it to help drive you forward. And I think that it's really freeing, and it's honestly, it's a really, really transformational experience. And I think that finding the motivation from powerlifting and, really wanting to change my life and realizing that the path I was on wasn't the path I wanted to be on, is really a really great thing. And I think that is totally there for other people. And I think that not enough people realize that the gym is completely reflective of how you live the rest of your life. You see people that go in the gym and they have their program written out, they follow it, they're doing everything with really good form, they're making sure they're writing down everything, they're taking their time to get through it, and they're not messing around. Those people are most likely very, very successful people, because when, in the rest of their life, they're also doing those things.
Right.
And I think that it has a lot of carryover to the way that you can handle yourself in the real world.
They're doers.
Yeah,
They get it
for real.
done.
Yeah, I think like the way you carry yourself in the gym is also the same that you do in the real world. Like you go in the gym, you get everything done you need to do. You don't really take a lot of rest or anything.
Right.
But I guess that's also the way you live your life. You do everything you want to be doing in order to improve each individual aspect, right? So, like you said before, you're working more on your biceps now because that's something that you feel you need to improve.
Right.
Just like, when you're at home, you're working on your coding because you feel like that's something you need to improve as well. I think that you can help the gym. You can use the gym to help you improve the way that you live your life. And I think that college is very much the formative time for most people. Those 4 years where you're finally alone and you're finally able to express yourself in ways that you couldn't previously. And I think that a lot of people are missing out on using the gym to help them do this. And I know from experience, most of the laziest people I've met are also people that don't go to the gym.
Right.
And don't have, or they do go to the gym, but it's very sporadic. They don't have a routine.
Mm-hmm.
They might only just like go on the running machine once or twice a week. I think that routine in one aspect of your life can also help you find routine in all aspects of your life. If you know you're going to be going to the gym at 6 a.m., you know that from 8 a.m. onwards you have to do something else and something else and something else. Right. And it can really help you to find that balance.
So when you started powerlifting very seriously and getting all focused, did you see a change in your schoolwork? So, like, did you see a change in your motivation, the way you approach these problems?
Yeah, I think that so kind of when I first started doing powerlifting training was in my second semester, so about just after like spring break kind of. And I think that's really when I changed the most, because I distinctly remember that I spent probably 90% of my free time in the library that semester, at least the second half. I really stopped going out. It wasn't necessarily the best approach. I'm not saying that everyone should be doing this, but when I wasn't lifting in the gym, I was like researching about lifting, learning more, doing my schoolwork, doing my involvement, and then spending a lot of time studying in the library and just trying to better myself in any way that I could. And I think that, that really, really helped me a lot, and I think it carried over into the fall semester. So after I did my first powerlifting meeting that summer, when I came back for school, I really was like working a lot harder.
Right.
I was involved in so much. I probably pushed myself a little bit too hard because I was trying to do so many different things. But I think that if you're not trying to overachieve, then inevitably you're going to be underachieving.
Right, because you'll never know your limits unless you hit them.
Exactly. So I definitely, that semester I found my limits. I found that, trying to do 6 classes and a bunch of involvement isn't necessarily the easiest thing or the best thing at the time for me. And I think that, last semester I found my balance. I kind of got into a rhythm. I took 6 classes. I did a bit of involvement. I did all my lifting, and I really worked hard to kind of build up my self-esteem and everything that I was trying to do. And I think that hopefully I'll continue to build on this and just really improve.
Absolutely.
But you made a good point. I think that powerlifting did really, really help really helped me in terms of my school and stuff like that. But I think that can be found in any type of like programming.
Right.
If you know that you're going to have to train 5 days a week, if you know you're going to be training an hour and a half to 2 hours every day, it's going to help you find routine, and it's going to help you find determination that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, I feel like once you put a lot of effort into helping one part of your life, it kind of brings up the rest of the parts of your life, because you see yourself in this one aspect, and then you feel good after you get out of the gym. Well, to me, it translates over to when after I got out of the gym and I worked so hard and I never knew I could push myself that hard. Well, when I came to studying, I was like, well, I think maybe I can push myself in studying a little bit. Or, when it comes to programming or making music, I mean, whatever it was, I felt like my whole life got elevated just because I gave more effort than I thought I could in the gym. And I feel like the gym is one of the easiest places to give more effort than you're capable of. Because I feel like it's hard to increase, like, if you have these study habits, right? Yeah. It's hard to just fix them. Yeah, overnight. You can't do that. Right? Yeah. But when you go in the gym and you're in an environment with all these people that are just working hard, or you have a goal in mind, it's a lot more tangible to accomplish your goals and bring up the rest of your life with it. As your gym game improves.
Yeah, I think that's a really profound statement. I think that in life, you have to focus on the things you can control. Yeah. I say this to a lot of people because not enough people recognize this. They, constantly worry and tirade about things that are affecting them that they have no control over. Like, a good example is if someone dies in your family, right? You can't change that, but what you can control is how you react to that. Mm-hmm. You can spend time relishing how they impacted your life, or you can spend time crying about their loss. But either way, that person is gone from your life, and you have to deal with the repercussions of that. And I think it's really important to recognize that you can apply this to any area of your life. If you're deciding that you're going to embrace control and control the things you can, the first thing you can control is your fitness. If you're going into the gym every day, that's going to improve your life, regardless of what you're doing. And then you can continue to control what you're doing in the gym, and to the point where you're optimizing it. Life is all about process optimization. And I think that if you're optimizing your time in the gym and you're optimizing your time you will inevitably work harder in different aspects. Right. If you're spending 2 hours in the gym and you're optimizing that, you're going to try and improve your study habits. You're going to try and improve your work habits to the point that you're getting everything out of everything that you're doing. Because people, once you stop wasting time, you realize how much you hate wasting time.
Yeah, exactly. Process. How'd you put it? Process optimization, and time allocation. Oh, that's it's got a ring to it. That's a nice ring to it.
Might have to get it tattooed. No, but I think it's an important thing to realize is that you don't have an unlimited amount of time. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. For me, I don't really sleep that much, especially like in the regular semester. I mean, right now I'm probably having around 7 or 8 hours a night. And it's definitely something I've had to work on because it doesn't positively impact your training too much. But I know last semester I was probably averaging like 5 or 6 hours because I was doing so many other things that I wanted to do. But I think if I really tried, I probably could have cut another hour of my day that I could have allocated to sleep.
Right.
Just getting rid of all the bullshit and time wasting that you don't even necessarily see. But I think for the average person that is sitting there listening and doesn't know how to find 2 hours to go to the gym, stop watching TV, man. Wake up 2 hours earlier. I always tell my mom this, and she's like, I never have enough time to go to the gym. I'm like, Mom, wake up at 6. Yeah. Go to the gym then. Because if you can get it out of the way and you can get that, it kind of anchors your day, right? Yeah. That's what The Rock always says. If you ever follow him, he always says that the gym is like his anchor. And I think it's, it makes it a lot easier. If you're waking up at 6 and you have a purpose to wake up at 6, it makes it easier to wake up at 6. If you're waking up at 6 just for the sake of writing a blog post or something, it might be kind of difficult because it's hard to be as motivated because you're like, I could do that anytime.
I think something people will find very surprising, especially when it comes to waking up at 6, is if it's your choice, it's a lot easier to do. That's true. Because I had to wake up at 6 plenty of times, like hundreds of times for high school. Yeah. Terrible. Hated it. Yeah. But as soon as it was my choice and I woke up and it wasn't even like sunny outside, it was completely dark, and I got in that gym and I look around, there's nobody there, you feel pretty good about it. There's a lot of positive feelings there and a lot of self-confidence that's built off of that.
It's real as well, like the the people you meet in the gym at 6 a.m., they're the real people.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They're the people you want to meet in the gym. The people you meet when you go in the gym at like 5 p.m., they're bullshit because they're in there because it's easy for them.
Slipping in after work.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, and it's also good because it helps you build routines for the rest of your life. I really never want to work a 9 to 5, but if I ever did have to, it would be really easy transition for me because I've spent a lot of time waking up at 6 a.m.
Right.
But whereas if you're working out at like 10 or 11 a.m., it's not going to be an easy transition because you're going to have to move your wake up time like 4 hours forward. So it might be kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's good to set these patterns and these just positive mentalities, and your motivation throughout your whole life will be, I mean, it really will be impacted by the work you put in your college years, your formative years. You know, the way you conduct yourself is going to reflect on the way you conduct yourself later in life. And whether you know it or not, if you're feeling, if you know in your heart that you're not giving it your 100%, just in general of whatever you're doing, then that percent, if you're giving 80%, your life's going to be 80%.
No, that's true, and I think it's gotten to the point now where I genuinely like feel guilty if I'm wasting time.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't take time off because you should. That's an important part of everyone's day, and you should make sure that you're including like some rest time. But at the same time, you know, if I'm sitting down and I told myself I was going to watch 2 episodes of the show and I watched 3, I feel really shit about it to the point that I'm working way harder at my schoolwork. And I think that's almost a good thing because you know. You're so keen to succeed that you feel bad when you're not doing things that aren't progressing.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, but I think that for me, strength training definitely helped me realize my motivation, and it gave me something to be motivated towards. And it's definitely been like a huge emotional outlet for me. I think that it's really awesome getting really riled up and channeling all your anger and trying to deadlift 600 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Because you know, when you're doing like shoulder raises, it's kind of hard to get fired up about it, and you're not really giving yourself a ton of benefit emotionally. I mean, obviously you're gonna build pretty cool shoulders, but who cares about that?
I don't know, man. That barbell shoulder press, you can get pretty intense with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I mean, I think initially when I started strength training, I was really concerned about the way that I looked, but I've progressed so much. Physically and emotionally that I really couldn't give a shit whether I have abs or not now. If I could trade having abs to bench pressing like 350 pounds, I would make that trade and I would never look back.
I mean, you find out a lot about yourself when you start this journey or do whatever, you know.
Exactly, and I think that a lot of people when they start, entering the world of fitness, they're so concerned with the way they look. But I mean, once you kind of get into it, you'll realize that it's easier to just accept the progress you're making mentally and emotionally than the physical progress, because that's always, it's always slow and it's always difficult to find.
Right.
True. Yeah, well, I think that's going to be everything for today.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation.
Great conversation, as always.
Check out our website, collegestrength.org, for all our great services, our apparel, coaching, our free programs, and some great blog posts. Also, follow us on Twitter at college_strong.
Yep.
Follow us on Instagram at collegestrength. And also follow our apparel company, 1RM Apparel, on Instagram. Send us your PRs, tweet at us, talk to us. We just want to talk to you guys. We want to know there's people out there.
Want to see it?
Send us your love. But anyway, thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
All right, thanks guys. See you.